That's the standard 1912 to 1915.
The second car down, Ted.
Yeah.
This is my father's Standard Triumph. I had a tractor, a sleeve valve tractor engine in it.
Okay.
And it was one sturdy car.
You can sit down. What book is this? This is Motor Cars.
Yeah.
So tell us about that.
So the 1952 had a different grill than the 51. It was a little toothier grill, similar to what you would see on a Chevy pickup. But other than that, it was identical. And you had a hand crank and a toolbox came with it. And no matter what, and my father had a block heater put in it. And everybody's car in the street at minus 20 below in those days, the English cars, they all had trouble starting it. Never with my father, ever. And you could take the big long wrench out and stick it in there and start the car by hand. It would always go, especially if you put the block heater on, right? And that car was ugly as sin. It was an ugly car. The British can just, like airplanes, they can take a beautiful looking plane and they can just ugly it up. And the picture doesn't show it, but they had fender skirts in the back, which made it even uglier. And you had to take them off, because if you left them on, the snow would pack up so much on there that you get to pick them up somewhere, because they would force them off the car.
Yeah, right, yeah.
But it had a beautiful leather interior, and it was an in-between gray paint that was on it. And when you ran your hand over the paint, you swear that somebody repainted the car and didn't take the dirt out. That's how that car came out of the factory, with that paint on it.
So what year was your dad's?
1952.
Okay, so those dates I was reading, that's 1912, 1915. Oh, I see, there's, oh.
Yeah, Standard was bought up by Triumph.
Yeah, because I was reading their Standard Electric Car Company.
Right.
Well, I have to research that.
Ah.
So that's Standard, and that's quite an interesting looking car.
Yep.
You said it was ugly. I like it.
No, but it was ugly in its day. You've got to go to 52 and look at a 52 Chev or a 52 Buick or a 52 anything. That looked like a big blob. So but it was comfortable. My mother learned to drive on it. She could run into things with it, and it would anything else would have crumpled it, and not this car. My mom ran into the post box at the foot of my grandfather's driveway in Porter's Lake, and it made one hell of a sound. Ripped the thing up and it put a dent in half the size of your fist. That was it.
Yeah?
That was it. Right? It was tough.
How many years did Mom and Dad have that car?
I'm going to say that my dad had the car about 10 years. And when my dad was done with the car, he sold the car to Courtney Green, because my dad figured it had it. Courtney went out and got the car repainted and drove it for another 6 or 7 years. And I'm sure that just killed my father, because Courtney could get a car to live way longer than, and when he repainted it black, it didn't look half bad. And had that beautiful leather
so
interior.
What color was yours?
It was the dark, an in-between gray, light gray.
Oh, light gray.
Right. And then after you finished painting it, you grabbed a handful of sand and threw it all over the car. How that got out of the factory cars like that, that's what the quality was so bad, then you wouldn't believe it.
Oh, wow.
But my father got one hell of a price. And that car was super duper reliable, unlike a lot of British cars.
So how did your dad get a good price on that?
Well, he didn't share that at that time, Ted. 52, you think of my age. And he probably bought it in 55.
Okay.
It wasn't a new car, it was a good used car.
Yeah, your dad never bought new cars.
No, not until he came to British Columbia.
Yeah.
And we bought the two-sided Chev, right?
Yeah.
That's it.
Oh yeah, so you were telling me that parking this out at the farm.
Yeah, well this car had
Uncle Bob's garage.
This car had semaphores, and on the middle of the steering wheel was a little flat switch, and you could swing it left or right, and the little semaphores that hop out, and of course they would light up and have little amber light bulbs in them, right? And that's how far ahead the British were or were not at that time, where we all had nothing, or turn signals were starting to make their way into the market at the time, and we loved that feature as kids. Had a fold-down rear armrest. It was quite roomy inside.
Yeah, it looks like it's roomy in the back.
Yeah, and no, I don't believe it had a radio. Nothing came with a radio then. But when it did, the radio was in the middle between the on top of the windshield and would lay back on an angle. And it had huge tires. I think there were 16-inch truck tires that were on it, right? And then back in the day, those tires would last forever. And my dad had a set of snows, and it would really go well in the snow. But my uncle, Uncle Ernie, right? He was a Ford man. Everybody was a Ford man. And for my dad to buy a car like that, a British car, as ugly as sin, that was against the code. Totally. So when he visited my uncle, outside of his house he had a garage that he kept his Ford in. His beautiful 1951 Ford was the nice one, and it was good. And Ernie always bought Fords, right? So when my dad came to visit, he made him park in behind the garage so nobody else could see that my father was visiting with such an ugly car. And the garage door would swing open. So when my dad parked the car, Ernie would
Was
open
this
the
just
garage door.
the way they joked around, or was this actually serious?
Who knows, Ted? This is the culture in Porter's Lake. They took Ford seriously. We were talking about the rum runners and the flathead V8 in my uncle's car and in his boat. And
Did he give your dad ribbing, like...
you could rib my father all you want. He could care less. But sure, they tried to beat him up. It had no effect. Price was price. And this was a great car. And that was that. And my dad drove Fords until they rusted out and then went to General Motors and never looked back. He was done.
Wow. So, yeah, your dad was an international man. He was a merchant marine. And he has worked with Air Canada.
Yeah.
Or, well,
Trans-Canada Airlines.
Trans-Canada Airlines.
Ernie was a machinist, and both of his sons entered the machinist trade.
Ernie was a machinist?
Yeah, well, I have some little paraphernalia around here, things that he did for my father. He did the little letters for the house, 63 Standard Street. He did that in the machine shop.
Yeah.
And a little Mannette plaque he made. He did that for the front of the house.
So the garage...
For my father.
Was that Bob's garage or Ernie's garage?
Bob's garage.
Bob garage. So how did Bob tie into...
How did Bob tie? He was from Porter's Lake. And they were Davisons. And they all knew each other. They were all relatives, right?
Were they relatives on your grandma's side?
Yeah, and my grandfather's. And his uncle was there, and they'd often intermarry within the same family. And like Darrell Layson said, too much inbreeding there.
Nova Scotia inbreeding.
Yeah, Darrell would say that when they were a little short. When the knives weren't that sharp, Darrell said, well, "What do you expect?"
Wow, that's. I guess you would notice it in a culture like that.
Very tight-knit community, right? We were talking about people who did rum running, and we're talking about people who did the White Lightning, had the stills out in the woods, just like the Yanks. And they had Fords because they had V8s that you could hop up and you could beat the police. They could go faster than their cars, right? You had 2 gas tanks on the car, one for the car and one for the alcohol. And you had to be caught with it. And so if they chased you, if you could get away, that was it. They couldn't catch you, they couldn't charge you. And they all knew it was a big game. That's how it went. We had marked gas and unmarked gas. The police would come by once in a while and they would check the trucks and the cars. And